not going to do it because it's not our government. It's their government. It's the government of the rich. It's the government of Wall Street, of the oil giants, of the defense contractors. It's their government, and the only family slaughtered. Not one more day of U.S. imperialism.
So-called West, with its colonialist tendencies, is striving not only to contain our development, but they are intent on destroying us. And
the people we're electing to run the government, they're not the ones actually running the government. It is this managerial bureaucracy, this machine that's independent of the people who we elect. But the people who we never elected are the ones really pulling the strings. And so what I think of Joe Biden, I think he's a puppet. And I think for that reason, he's mostly irrelevant.
So before I even speak about how I feel about Joe Biden, what is your feeling about Joe?
You know, my feeling about Joe is I actually, maybe much less than other Republicans, spend a lot less of my airtime sitting around criticizing him, because I don't even think that in any real sense of the word, he is the operative president of the United States. I think he is, like so many politicians, a figure. He's a puppet for this managerial machine that sits underneath him. So it's like a bad version, a nightmarish version of like the Greg Popovich San Antonio Spurs, right? It almost doesn't matter who's playing point guard because it's a machine that operates irrespective of who's actually playing whatever role they're playing. And he just happens to be really the instrument, the puppet who's playing the role of the U.S. president. And viewed as such, see, a lot of people wonder, well, why would they nominate this man who has this many cognitive deficits or is unable to construct full sentences? In some ways, for the people who are operating that machine, and that's not one person who's like the Wizard of Oz sitting behind the scenes, it's a whole machine, it's actually more convenient when the president doesn't have independent thoughts of his own, when the president itself is just a cog in that wheel, which is that the idea that this is one man who's actually calling the shots as the leader of the executive branch is a farce. He's not. The people who were electing to run the government, that's the myth we tell ourselves in America today. That we tell ourselves, we go through these elections, the people we elect to run the government, they're the ones running the government, then we hold them accountable. It's all a fairy tale. The people we're electing to run the government, they're not the ones actually running the government. It is this managerial bureaucracy, this machine that's independent of the people who we elect. But the people who we never elected are the ones really pulling the strings. And so what I think of Joe Biden, I think he's a puppet. And I think for that reason, he's mostly irrelevant. The puppet masters are slowly losing their use for him. When you become totally impaired at a certain point, you stop being useful even as a puppet. But I think that's what I think is really going on with the Biden issue.
And you spoke on this, that, you know, one of your things that you wanted to bring to the attention was that you want the board, the people who are on the government, to be the ones to actually be running the government.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, there's two basic ideas that I approach this with. It's not black or white or even Democrat or Republican. One is the people who we elect to run the government should be the ones who run the government. And number two is those people who we elect, they owe a moral duty exclusively to the citizens of this country, not any other one. The first and only moral duty of U.S. elected leaders are to the U.S. citizens in this country. That's it. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think that's two basic ideas that we fought in the American Revolution to say. We get to choose who runs the government. We, the people, create a government that's accountable to us, not the other way around. That's what the American Revolution was fought for, and that's what I stand for.
Susan Brothers, thanks everyone for being here. We're from the organization March Forward, and we're here to say to all those serving in the Army and the Marines and the Air Force and the Navy that you have the absolute right to refuse to take part in these criminal wars, and that's a right that all of you should exercise. You have no reason to go put your life on the line and kill and die for profit. We've been to Iraq, we've been to Afghanistan, and we know what these wars are really about. And we joined the military for many reasons. Because we need a college education, because we need a job, because we need health care. And then we joined the military, and they tell us that our enemies are poor people in caves in Afghanistan, or poor people in the deserts of Iraq. But we've been to those countries, and we know that our enemies are not other poor people abroad. Our enemies are the people that laid us off from our jobs, that denied us health care, that make it impossible to get an education. Our enemies are not in the poorest countries on the planet, but right here in the richest one.
Now, the
these wars, the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan alone are costing over $700 million every single day. This is a crime every single day, while so many of us are hurting. Well, I think all of us here and the vast majority of people in this country would agree that we can spend $700 million a day better than bombing people that we have no reason to bomb. We can spend $700 million a day rebuilding those countries we've destroyed. We can spend $700 million a day caring for the veterans we get home when they get home, and then we can spend $700 million a day giving every single person health care, a college education, a job, and a livelihood, and a home. That's what we need to be spending our money on. But this government is not going to do that. They're not going to use the money in that way. They're not going to end the wars. And they're not going to do it because it's not our government. It's their government. It's the government of the rich. It's the government of Wall Street, of the oil giants, of the defense contractors. It's their government, and the only language that they understand is shutting down business as usual. And that's what we're doing here today, and we're going to continue to do until these wars are over. Well, it's crystal clear now that these wars are going to continue and expand and go into other countries. That is the trend. That is what we know, that there is perpetual war, and it's only going to stop if the people stand up and stop it. And that's what we're going to do, sisters and brothers. And a lot of people ask me, what do we do? Because we all know things are bad. We all see the atrocities on TV. We read about it. We experience it. People always ask, what do I do? Because we always want to know what to do. Do we vote? Do we support a politician? Do we join an organization? What do we do? Well, I'll tell you what we do. It's simple. We fight. We fight and we fight and we fight, and we shut down our workplaces. We shut down our schools. We shut down the streets. We shut down business as usual, and we fight until we force the people in there to do what the people out here want, because that's how we're going to get around, and we're going to fight until there's not one more bomb drop, not one more bullet fired, not one more soldier coming home in a wheelchair, not one more family slaughtered, not one more day of U.S. imperialism. So let's fight to make that happen. We can do it today, and then the days ahead, we have to fight to end these wars and create a better world, sisters and brothers. So join us in that fight. Thanks.
Nobody is allowed to interfere in our domestic affairs. The so-called West, with its colonialist tendencies, is striving not only to contain our development, but they are intent on destroying us and using our space for whatever their purposes are, including Ukraine. They are absolutely determined to introduce division amongst us and weaken us. And we have to ensure the determination of our people in the face of these threats. And this encompasses all the various representatives of the different regions and the multicultural nation which is Russia. And it involves all our common efforts. Together, shoulder to shoulder, we are fighting for a common cause, that of the motherland.